can talk later, just to make sure we give everybody a chance today to ask whatever questions they want to. So, is that good? Y'all have questions? Who wants to start? In the back.
I have two.
Okay.
The first question is, how do you, your team go about developing new leaders? Let's just say that you have an adult. I know that you and Andy, you talked about developing younger musicians and singers. What if you have like a worship team perhaps and you're developing singers? Is that something that you recommend a team doing in-house, or is that something that they should develop on their own?
Okay, so we're developing young talent and building the team. I think I think you can do both, actually. I think the in-house responsibility is the greatest because of the development of all the things we talked about earlier, of the character and the heart, and the actually producing in the people we're building who we are as a church locally. So I think that the in-house responsibility is a given, that has to happen, and there has to be a way to do that. I'm going to give you an example in a minute of one specific person I know. But I also think that in the Spirit-led Pentecostal church, we have definitely, we are good at kind of off the cuff, winging, just kind of like, Lord, would you just download everything into my hands right here, boom, I can play kind of mentality. I'm not saying we do that. I'm kind of almost tongue-in-cheek there, but the point is, I think that the idea of mentoring and finding someone for personal development outside of the church is important. For instance, I was classically trained for 18 and a half years. How does that affect me in the Pentecostal church? Discipline, the commitment to my craft, respect of my craft. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with what I just played this morning in praise and worship, but it has everything to do as to who I am as a musician. Does that make sense? That's the benefit of it, I think, in creating a culture, especially in young people, where get lessons, get training, get mentoring, get help. The reason why the church has to do that is because the schools aren't doing it anymore, hardly. Okay, the church is about the only bastion of hope left for cultivating the arts, all right? The arts all come out of the church. All these amazing secular artists we are influenced by or listen to or whatever, they got church in them somewhere. Okay, all of them. Even the heathens and the hellions, okay, they all have church in them, okay? So my point is we have to cultivate that if you're going to do anything here, you get started. Call it bench time. Get started on your bench time right now and learn and cultivate an expectation with the parents to invest. And I liked what somebody said this morning. Get sponsorships going. Do something. The church needs to do something to stir this up in young people. That's what, I mean, when I was growing up 50 years ago, that's what we did. We all took a craft. We all learned something. We didn't just stay on our phones all day and get zombie brains, okay? We did something, all right? And the fact is the church can be inspiring people to do that because you will benefit from it. Okay, that's to say the personal responsibility. Absolutely believe that, but I do think ultimately that the church is responsible to cultivate that culture of developing and mentoring young people. I'm going to give you an example. One of, I call it my pride, kind of my pride and joy, basically. And many of you may know his name. His name is Cameron Cook. He's from POA. He is 17 years old. He is a recording artist. He plays every instrument in the rhythm section that we use at church, every single one of them, and he has mastered every single one of them, and he's basically better than anybody in the church at every one of them. He's 17 years old, but he started out as a little choir kid. His mom is in choir. His mom and dad both are in choir, and he would come. He couldn't sit in choir rehearsal, but he could sit outside the door of the choir room and listen. So at 6 years old, at 8 years old, at 10 years old, he has processed hours and hours and hours of team rehearsals. Okay, so and he has a love for music, and so they're giving him the the lessons or whatever. My wife taught him piano, was the first piano teacher he had, and this and that and whatever. Okay, well at about 10, 11 years old, it's starting to show this kid has promise musically. He loves music. So the first thing that happened, boom, we have a J Crew ministry. That's junior high. He was going into junior high, so he started playing in J Crew. Okay, the kids playing for themselves. I think he helped out in the kids ministry before he got to J Crew, and then he went into Rush, which is the high school, and he started doing that. But all during that, he got a bigger kind of like intern type of experience by, okay, we have Spanish church starting, and they don't have any music. And you're 12 years old and you like to play. You're not that great, but you like to play. And they need help. So every Sunday morning, he didn't get to go to church in big church. He went to Spanish church and played music he didn't even understand. For 5 years, he did it. And he got his training, on-the-job training, to where the point is now 5 years later, he's literally basically almost running the music department of POA. And if you know anything about the music department of POA, it's a big music department. Okay, he's 17 years old. He has the heart for POA. He is POA. He got all of his experience right there in the culture of that church. Okay, he is a genius himself because it's a God gift, yes, but because he was so encouraged to cultivate that in the house, we were a part of that development because of our intentionality to let him grow up in this. Does that make sense? So we were very intentional about cultivating that for the kids. He's not the only one at POA. Right now, the band is half full of teenagers, and all the teenagers play 10 times better than all the old heads. All of them. They mastered their instrument. And here's what you got. You got this YouTube generation that has all the influence and exposure that they need. If they have the drive and the gumption just to get up and do it, they're going to be better than any of us ever could be because they have the resources to help them be better than I could ever be. It's just the truth. So the opportunities right now to raise the greatest generation musically ever is on us. We just have to cultivate that expectancy that this is what we do as young people. We find something and we plug in. I want to see the days come back, and I was in a place recently and I saw it and it gave me so much hope where, like 5 guys line up at the drums during altar service, just either waiting their turn or just staring and watching the drummer. Like, we lost all of that. We lost somebody going and sitting on the organ bench when somebody's playing right next to the Leslie blaring in their ears. Like, that's what happened when I was growing up. That's what I did. My altar spot was on the organ bench with whoever was playing the organ. If I wasn't praying, I was sitting watching the organ player play. I was just absorbing what was happening around me, taking it in, being a little music nerd. That's what I was. And it was okay. Everybody thought it was cute, pat on the head or whatever, but it was part of our culture. And somewhere along the way, we got away from that. And we got this kind of like performance, like if you're not performance ready at all time, you're of no worth. And so only the big guys get to do all the music, and the rest of us we're no good. So no, there's no path, there's no way for me to get into this thing. We made it exclusive somehow or something. Is that right? Do you guys agree with that? I mean, you want to speak to that? I know, Andy, you got a lot of thoughts on it.
Well, I was this morning, I was thinking about the scripture, gift makes room for itself. And a lot of times the person's gift is going to make room for itself. We haven't made room for them.
Right.
And so, like, in our whole church, like, that's me. Like, it was so
5 generations, yeah.
It was loud as a kid,
Yes.
I played guitar, and guitar wasn't even a thing in church. That was a whole other thing that's kind of new. But we've lost the love, and I don't know if it was through, and this might be touchy, but I don't know if it was through Bible colleges, the performance part of it, or what. That's where I saw the performance part of it, and how that the performance, everything had to be on this level. When they left, like people felt like they couldn't do it, but we put our time in, and tried to be the best that we possibly could.
Speak to it from your angle, Kevin, because I know you've been in the Bible college system for a long time, teaching in it.
Yeah, I can only speak from my own experience, you say, but even in the transfer and being a part of that and traveling, I can say with my role at the college, I traveled for 10 weeks at least a year, that's just straight, but I'd probably spend at least 4 or 5 months on the road traveling. So in like a 7-8 year span, I went to probably 200-300 churches in good like 20 different district camps and different stuff like that. And the common thread which ties to what Brother Andy was saying is like, in that time I've seen pastors over and over again say, hey, I'm looking for somebody, hey, I'm looking for somebody, hey, I'm looking for somebody. Because somewhere along the line, and I don't know if I came at maybe the middle of that age, and they thought that the people in there weren't worth enough investing. That like, because my thought was like, man, 5 years later, who could have raised up to like fill all these positions? And some of them are paying positions. They're like, we got $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 budget, free housing, all stuff like that. And I was like, what if you just took like $2,000 of that budget or $1,000 of that budget and paid for piano lessons?
Right.
For like
Grassroots, kind of a grassroots effort. Yeah.
So I somewhere along the line, our mentality of, and I'm not sure where, because when I grew up in the pre-YouTube era, where you had to learn a song by ear and stuff like that, and where everybody wanted to do that, but somewhere it shifted, and even just my experience in Stockton with the younger, there's a like, okay, I've learned the 4 chords, I'm okay there, and but they don't have a challenge from the older generation or the people looking for positions filled to say, hey, I want you to graduate up here. They just leave them there, and then the whole time they said, we need somebody, if we can find somebody, we're praying for this, everything like that. But there's somewhere lost where we don't look at our young people as the future.
It's our best resource, yeah. What's in your house? That's a big question I like to ask. What's in my house? Lord, lead me to what's in my house. What do I have right here that I can tap into right now and develop? You had one more question too. Didn't want to get too far. Okay, think about it. Another question. Try to keep this moving a little bit right here.
We're from a small church. I've been leading and playing piano for the last 20 years, so I keep hearing about tracks, but I have no idea where to start.
Okay.
I would love to expand our band.
Okay, that's a side conversation, a very good conversation that we have, and one of those guys in the back can help you. I can point you to what. Yes, they can. It's very accessible. Everybody can do it. We all are headed in that direction, obviously. Technology's here to stay, obviously, and we need to use technology in the ways that support what we're doing. I don't like using technology to substitute for anything I have, but I like it to support. And I think that especially in small churches, it can be such a blessing to help set a bar, because I believe that if you can set a bar at a certain place and then raise up the people to that bar, you finally get all the pieces you need to do that. That's what I've seen. I don't use it like to just do the work for me. I actually want to do it to actually subsidize what we do. Is that right? Is that the right philosophy? You guys think that, it doesn't replace anything, it actually subsidizes what our effort is until we can get it to that point with the personnel. And so, yeah, any of those guys in the back are good resources to talk about the places that you can look for that. And you do definitely need to delve into it. It's worth it. It's worth getting, and get somebody young that's around you that doesn't have any trouble or issues with technology, and have them do it with you. Somebody that you can rely on. And because honestly, teams now, all your teams need a techie guy on it. A tech that they're submitting themselves to all the technology to learn because for the young people it's not a learning curve at all. So I'm not wasting my time on it, because for me it is a learning curve, a huge learning curve, and it's not a waste of my time at all. I'm just very fortunate to have really good peers that deal with my ignorance, my technological ignorance, but I use it. I depend on it completely. And even for people like me, there's ways that you can use it. A dummy can use it. I just, you can mix the tracks down to MP3 files and play them off of an iTunes playlist, which is what I do. That's how I handle it. So, but there's a bunch of ways to do it, and so yeah, that's a good conversation, and everybody should access themselves to the good technology support that is out there. It's just worth it. Multi-tracks, Loop Community, and I know there's a million other things, but those are the main 2 that I know about that we use. So, okay, somebody else. Right.
Talk about spontaneous worship and kind of just when you're leading worship, you kind of linger.
Yes.
I don't really have a specific question about it. I just want to kind of talk.
Okay, spontaneous worship and flowing. Okay. I think that I have so many things I could say about that. So, first of all, the place that is cultivated is not in the service on stage. That is actually cultivated, in my opinion, in the rehearsal culture through the team, with the team. For me, if I go 2 or 3 rehearsals with my team and there hasn't been some kind of move of the Lord, I get nervous. I'm like, okay, we are singing to you, singing about you, working and practicing all this, and you're not showing up. Like, for me, that's my benchmark. I like, if we're going to work on this, it doesn't matter if we're in work mode. If we're singing about him, at some point, in our rehearsals, there should be some kind of, that connected to the Spirit. And so for me, I build that space into my rehearsal culture. That way to practice his presence is what I call it. Let's practice the presence of the Lord. Let's practice following after the Spirit, learning how the Spirit leads, how it flows, how we do that together as a team. And there's a lot of ways you can cultivate that environment into your rehearsal culture. For me, that's the basis of it. Because when we lead worship in church, I do not want to lead it out of what I'm thinking about or what I'm remembering. I want to lead it out of who I am. As a team, we really, and the only way to really do that is to cultivate that in the team, in the process of being together, working. And so check how much you're spending time on things. I mean, are you using all of your time just to review and rehearse and learn the alto parts and unison parts and remembering sequences? If that's all that's happening in the rehearsal, then you haven't developed your culture enough in rehearsal. It takes time. And a lot of times in this frantic societal pressure we live in, and nobody has time to rehearse anymore. Let's just get to church 30 minutes early and we'll hit it. It's all of this frantic. Well, probably flowing is going to be about the last thing that you're going to really be comfortable at, because everybody's so pressed. And so that's why I think an off Sunday or out of the church service space, whatever that is, wherever that is in the week, rehearsal is very important. Now, I'm not saying it has to be every week. I know a lot of like urban churches do more of like a once a month on Saturday morning for 3 or 4 hours, wherever it is, whatever it is, if you have a weekly time, that at some point your team is very comfortable that if the anointing hits the effort that's happening, that the team goes there. They go there. It's not a waste of time. It is not getting off of I've got to learn all these songs. So what? At that point, the main thing is, can we learn how to flow in the Spirit? Because what you will do is when the opportunity comes into the service, you've already been there. You've already experienced that. The other part of that I would think that would be important is the collaboration with the leadership, the pastor, the leadership team, and all of those that have say-so into the service. Is there a kind of a master plan for that service? A master vision for how that service flows and happens? For me, this is what I like. I don't like, we need 3 songs here and a song here. What I like is, can you give me 30 minutes here, 10 minutes here? Because what that does is that gets me out of this whole fast, medium, slow transition where it's just all science and numbers and math and plug-in lines on my Excel spreadsheet or PCO, and thinking about it so like this, instead of thinking about it in more of a fluid, experiential approach. So that would involve communicating with all the leaders, anybody that has any input into the service, and talking through that. I'm very intentional about every service that I'm a part of. And the reason why is because I want every service to be Super Bowl. Every service. I don't want to have throw-off services. I don't want to have it's a little fifth wheel service, or it's not an important service. This is our big one. Why do it? That's my whole thing. So if I'm there and my team is there, okay, what's the point? What is the point of this service? Okay, we're going to tap into that, and then when we get there to do it, The team's already been communicated. That's why I'm a detail guy, because I believe that if you have a script and you have details and you have all of that and you work it well, then when you have to get off script, nobody's nervous because everybody's centered in the process. And we know, like for instance, I'm one that likes for every team member to know all the elements of the song. Now this is how the song typically flows. But if it's not to exactly flow that way, because we are so familiar with all the elements of the song, if we go off to this part, we know that when we're in this section, we do this section this way. So we sit on it for 10 or 20 minutes, but we do it this way. You know, it gives the confidence to the team to be able to spontaneously go to those places. So I think those are any other elements you guys, anybody want to comment on that at all? I mean, those are to me, those are collaborating with the leadership team that has to do with the pastor, who has to do with the service and making sure of how that service is scripted and how it's going to flow. And then in my rehearsal culture, just continually, I mean, I cannot express how important I think it is for us to have. I think we need gifts of the Spirit in our rehearsal culture. I think we need signs and wonder. I think we need all the things that we are in rehearsal. Okay? I'm just going to put that challenge out to us. I know that can be intimidating, and that it's, you know, sometimes we say, well, it's rehearsal. We're not here for a prayer meeting. It's rehearsal. We're not here for a church service. That is correct, but I don't think you can compartmentalize us down to and distill it down that way all the time, where it's separate all the time. I think there has to be a fusion of, because we're rehearsing all of it, right? We're rehearsing our ability to flow in all of those levels. So that's why I think it's really important. And as a leader, that can be intimidating, but I think that as we gently start kind of, you know, leaning into giving space for it, we get more confidence and do it. It's the opposite way for me. I get nervous like I said, if I go 2 or 3 rehearsals, I'm like, Lord, where are you? You haven't shown up. And I'm not going to like drum the people up. I just need you to come in and move. Just get the people excited about your presence. That's what I want. I want to build a rehearsal that bends itself to that. That, you know, we're gonna wrap it up now with this song, and I know it's a favorite of people, or I know it's got that point, and I just hope that it catches with the team, you know, like we're going to run it from the top, you know, and we're running it, and all of a sudden we get to that bridge and everybody starts going. I'm like, there it is. That's what I need. And so I'm like, man, we're sitting there for 15 minutes. We're going to sit in this moment. We're going to cultivate this, you know, and then out of that could turn into a prayer. Go pray with somebody right now. Because the thing is, if we go into church and we are all spiritually needy, we're not being leaders. We got to get the church full to minister to the people that are needy. So it's our turn backstage, so to speak, you know, when we're not up there. Let's get what we need here with us so we can go out there and flow and do what we need to do out there. Yes?
Can you expound a little bit more on the 30-10 that you mentioned, instead of saying sing this song here or there?
As far as the time spaces, okay.
Yeah,
for me, for me, having a time space allows me a whole lot more creative approach to what I want to do with that time. For instance, I love mashups. I don't necessarily just love fast, medium, slow. I like maybe, let's do a big opening song, whatever, get everybody, call to worship, everybody's in there, probably a transition song, but then maybe that last piece, instead of just one big epic ballad, why can't I take 3 of my favorite songs that they're all 6/8, they all can work in A flat. I love the verse and the chorus to this, but this turnaround in this song leads to this bridge beautifully. And all of a sudden you've got this big epic journey of a worship time of 3 songs in the slow spot, so to speak. So if you've got just a time frame, Pastor, give me from 10 o'clock to 10:30 today. Okay, well, and so if you look at the script, it might say 5 or 6 songs. Well, how much time are we going today? Well, you have to help your pastors, who are usually type A, like I mentioned earlier, is understand we're not going 8 minutes on each of those songs. We're going to this one will be 7 minutes, this one will probably be 6 minutes. All of this is going to be the rest of it. Like we're going to flow it. And if you start doing it it takes a little bit of it. You have to build the trust factor in there. But what I've noticed is that that, as my pastors have learned to trust me on it, they know that the whole objective is to get the people from there to there so that when they take it, it's where it's supposed to be. I'm going to use my time wisely to make that journey happen to get them there. So for me, it's about being creative. I want to do a 3-song mashup here instead of just fast, medium, slow. I want to do fast, medium, mashup, slow. Or, you see what I'm saying? Or maybe I want to do a celebration time, and I want 20 of my minutes to be we're going to celebrate. We're going to just I'm going to hit 5 of the church's favorite songs through this, and we're going to just hit the hooks, and we're going to just go from glory to glory, so to speak, and the church is like, wow, and they know everything, but it's not the song, it's just this piece, and it keeps your audience leaned in too, because the thing is I mean, I'm pretty structured. I'm very structured, actually, and so if every time I get up, I'm going to do breakthrough the exact same way in the same spot, it goes the second song on Sunday nights at this point, well, then all of a sudden nobody's engaging it at a deep level anymore because they know, we know how this goes. Right. So they're pre-thinking everything for you because it's the same way we do it every time. It allows you to stir all of that up and to keep it authentic. To keep it as an authentic expression so that the worship can happen, not worship by default, where we know, we know the brain just automatically goes there, because if you approach every time it's your worship space, fast, medium, slow, or slow, medium, and the congregation's already just thinking ahead, then everybody's kind of just checking off. It stays here. It doesn't ever elevate and get above just the checking off our worship time. Does that make sense? And I don't want it to be that trite. I want it to be meaningful, which goes back to how do you do spontaneous and flow. I want there to be moments where we're going to create history in worship today, and it's never going to happen this way again. We don't know what's going to happen, but it's never going to happen like this again. And something significant in the Spirit's going to happen. So if you have that space to creatively approach it, it lends itself more to that. Kevin, I think you had something you wanted to offer there too.
To add on to that, I was going to say, for me, it's also, we've all been where we've done one extra song too many.
Yes.
Because there is a suggested time limit. So we've all been there, like, especially the time thing. When I switched to that mentality, it kind of opened up, because you're in the first song and it just hits. And you're like, awesome. So you're at the second song, but if you're thinking, oh, I got 3 songs, opposed to thinking, Pastor he wants 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. So we're at like 27. Maybe it's your 3rd or your 4th song. Do I hand it back to him now? Or a lot of times what happened, which I learned, I would just do the 4th, and everybody's mental clock, they're done. Mm-hmm. Or a pastor, you're going in, pastor runs up, grabs the mic, shuts it down, goes to announcement, and you're like, how do you just kill that thing? You spent 40 minutes, So the whole time thing, and maybe you can add how to actually create that culture for a church that doesn't have it.
Well, that's interesting. That was what point I was just going to make. When I first went to CCC in Northern Virginia, the timestamp typically given for worship was 20 minutes. And it was given incrementally by the amount of songs that was put into it. So that for me was like a little bit restricted, but I'm like, okay, I'm gonna submit and we're gonna go with this, And so I slowly started introducing this idea of, can we just kind of open that space up more creatively? And what happened is as we did that naturally, over time, all of a sudden it's not 10:20 anymore, it's 10:25, and then 6 months down the road, now worship's going to 10:30. Right now, 5 years later, it most of the time goes to 10:45. It literally goes 45 minutes. And we never had to because I always go to Pastor Mitchell and go, we went over time. Oh, but the Lord was moving, that he went with it. He wasn't trapped in it himself. It was almost like he saw it. It was such a natural thing that happened, because I'm always watching. When I know my time's up, I start watching. And if he's just all in it still, okay, we'll keep going. He's all in it still, keep going. As long as he's all still in that moment, I keep that moment going. And slowly but surely, that time increased from 20 minutes. It over doubled. Basically to what the average is right now, because what we saw was the result of what's happening in that unimpeded flow of worship. And for me, that experience was a very natural one, because I didn't challenge what the original structure was. I wasn't combative with it. I just kind of worked within it, and prayed a lot of praying. God, you know, we work so hard to get you here. We don't want to just be like, hi, bye. Like that was my whole deal. Like I don't want to just say hi, bye. That was fun, you know, we're done. But it never really had to, you know, I mean, there were some conversations from time to time, and I would ask, you know, did it go too long? Whatever. And most of the time it's like, no, you know what? The Lord has been doing a work. I think we need to keep, you know, and it just opened up everybody's expectation to flow with that, you know, and it just kind of over the years evolved into that. And I was very, on the back side of that with the team, I was just like, be very sensitive, you know, we'll be ready to go or we'll be ready to stop, you know, whichever directive we're given. You know, I taught them that fluidity approach, you know, which makes all your team members be very mature. They have to be spiritually mature and they have to step up. And one thing you have to understand about me is I lead from behind. I'm never the lead guy. I'm the lead person on the stage, pushing the whole team, but I'm doing it from the back. And so I pushed all the leadership of all my worship leaders forward. Like, you have to do this. If you don't do this, it flops. Because I'm not doing it. I'm not covering for you. I'm not stepping up to do it. You do it. And so I have this kind of like I am combative, but with my team. And in a sweet, kind way. Of like, you're going to do your best job today. Right now. With this song. You know, like, no questions, you know. And okay, I have learned that if I tell people they can do it, most of the times they can. If I'm sensitive enough to know the gifting of my team, and I see it in them, I don't give them a choice to be like, wheelie around and step forward and do it. And the Lord, you know, I used to think it was one of my crosses to bear. It was like, why'd you give me the ugliest voice ever? And I'm working with all the best singers ever. I don't know how this works. I think that's one of the benefits of it, is that I can quickly call out the giftings of good leaders and say, you're going to do this, and not give them a choice. And I trained my team to step all the way forward in their leadership, all the time. And we have a good chemistry of when it's your turn to lead or when it's your turn to lead. And when it's not your turn to lead, that you're fully following the person that is leading and you're not trying to tug of because I'm the leader. No, there's a clear path for all of us. And so it's working that team dynamic as well. So that's a long way around the story, but if that gave you some thoughts there of how to approach it. Okay, another question? Okay.
It's not really a question, I guess it's a caveat off of it. When I went into music ministry at a very young age, my pastor at the time said, never forget to seek. Never forget to seek God in every step of the journey. So we have all of these things put up in place. We have the plan, we have the plan of action to go for. But when you get on that stage and you forget to seek God, even in the midst of that action plan, you've lost your whole purpose. And then not only that, as a leader, you also should be teaching those that are singing, like he said, he's got to, you know, pushing them forward, but teaching them to also seek God, because when it's together and in unity, God is going to move in the midst, and everybody's going to be on the same page.
Always. Very good point. And you know, the whole point of the plan is not because it has to go this way. The plan is, Lord, we're bringing a fresh offering to you today, and this is what we think. This is our starting point. This is the best we know how to bring. This is where we know how to start. Now, your Spirit knows best, and we're going to go to where your Spirit leads us. But we're not coming not prepared. We're coming with our best offering today, so that as we seek you and as we do entreat the Lord, that he will show us how to go, the way to get there, because we're helping people to get to the presence of God, and that is the ultimate goal every single time. And I hope in the process we execute the song amazing. I hope it sounds great in the process. I hope we play all those rhythms and punches, and I want them right. I do, because I think all of that adds to the vehicle that helps propel people toward the presence of the Lord. So my point is, I'm not obsessing about that and missing the whole point of what we're trying to do. It's just a vehicle to get people into the presence of God. So.
My next question is kind of two-part. When you were talking, well, you actually answered one of them. How do you go about when you're choosing songs or worship leaders? Do you let worship leaders pick songs, or do you, like, as a worship pastor, do you pretty much do everything?
All of the above, yes. So I have worship leaders that I trust and worship leaders that are in training. The ones that are in training, I have a lot more input, direct input with them. I may let them have some input to creatively into steering some of that, but I will make the final decisions with the ones that I'm training. The ones that I have on the team, I give it to them. I assign it to them, and they know they have an open door to me anytime they need to come to me and ask me for input or advice, or how would you handle this, how would you handle this transition, or whatever. And I'm always available to make sure, and I'm always checking to make sure, even with my main worship leaders. But by and large, I let them own it, because I want them to learn I don't want them to always have the little sidebar of, oh, Kevin will fix it if it's not right, you know. And one of the things is I travel full time now, and so even though I still oversee 2 teams, which y'all pray for me, my strength in the Lord, I'm not quite sure how that all works, but that's what I've been doing for the last few years, is literally overseeing 2 church teams while I travel full time. It's a lot of work. So you have to have a lot of trust in your leaders, is my point. And I have to force that trust to the surface with them. So I need y'all to step up as leaders. And even though I'm reviewing their work, I'm most of the time letting them do their work as leaders. And then we can debrief it later. How did it go? I'm always asking, how did it go? What do you feel? And helping mentor and train them, but I do trust them to do it. And I have the understanding with my team too, that if they're facilitating this Sunday, they're calling all the creative shots. We're following Candace today. We're following Trina today. We're following Taylor today. And it's a schedule that I put out. So that's my main people. But then I've also got these ones in training that, you know, I'll use, like maybe to lead a song or lead a youth service or something, that I will help them with that, you know. That's how I do it. I mean, anybody else have any ideas how you do it? Are we done? 1 minute? Yes, I think that's an important thing, though, is training the whole team to be the leadership team. It's the whole team's the leaders. We're all the leaders. Now, there's different varying. Our talent will allow us to do different things in leadership on that team, but that there's an understanding that every single member of the team is a leader on some level. And I think that allows you to do that. Did you think of your other question before we leave?
It actually coincides with Sister Wiedeland's question. How do you mentioned about how do you flow in the prophetic worship or spontaneous worship? How do you develop that cohesiveness with your team, especially when you have people on different levels? But maybe they have difficulties like picking out parts. I'm talking about singers in particular. It could be musicians as well, but singers in particular. How do you build that cohesiveness? No, time is up.
Probably.
Well, how do you build that cohesiveness, and how do you go about developing those who, like, let's just say, okay, worship rehearsal is on Saturday, we're getting ready for Sunday rehearsal. Am I setting out, parts? How do I develop that and build that cohesiveness?
You know, the fact is along with the technology, there are so many resources for songs now. There are so many people that have created like part reference tracks for that you can upload to Planning Center, and the whole team can access it and actually be learning on their own. But from my standpoint as the main leader of the team, I am very articulate with how I lead the team rehearsal, how I teach a song. I teach a song very articulately. I teach it the same way. I review it the same way. And that's why I do sequences, not because I want it to be etched in the service, but I want it to be etched in people's minds so that whenever we get into the service, whatever we're doing, I said that earlier, they can recall whatever that is. So I think it's the consistency of the leadership and how it is taught. And then I think that because we have Planning Center and so many things, anytime there is a vocal reference, and they're so available now. And a lot of them are available through like Praise Charts and Loop Community and all of these places where we're drawing from now. A lot of them have the vocal where you can distill the vocals down, and you can send that out to your team. And preparation is a big deal. Work off of a planning list. Work off of a list of songs. And I like to collaborate with people that I trust their input to get a song list. I don't just use my own song list. I like 3 or 4 people around me that give me input. They've got their ear to the ground of the church ministry and what the Lord is doing in the church, and they give me songs that are speaking to them about that, and we collect those songs and I like to create 10, 15 song lists that will get us through like 4 and 5 months ahead, and that song list, do an Apple Spotify playlist and get it out to everybody, and then as you get the resources, upload them to Planning Center and send those Planning Center or whatever your method of communicating the material is, and get all of that into the team. You may be 4 months down the road from teaching it, but the more it gets embedded into them, when you have a rehearsal on it, you're able to have a quick, efficient rehearsal on it, and everybody's already internalized the music and the song. And I think that consistency is where the confidence comes from. You want your team to be confident. You don't want them to be badgered because of a weak system or whatever. The system, if it's very clear and concise and very dependable, and the communication of the material is very efficient, then you can raise your team's ability. Like, don't tolerate messy rehearsals. I don't. I mean, we work in our rehearsals, and when we have fun afterwards. I like to party afterwards. Like, some people like to party, and then about an hour into the rehearsal, we finally get serious and get started. No, I like to start on time and work my tail off for the first 90 minutes. Then we can go to Fridays and eat afterwards and hang out for 3 hours if we want to. Because then I can breathe. We can all breathe that way. But that seriousness of our time together, I think it prioritizes the importance of where that music needs to go in us. And the leader's approach to that is everything to that success.